I will say it is by far the biggest icing on the cake for your resume and for your medical school application. The next set of things I'm about to provide you with are things that I had on my application that truly were icing on the cake. Now, why do I call them icing on the cake? Because these were things that I did to enhance my application, and they were things that were pointed out to me by pre-medical advisors as well as program directors from different medical schools as being things on my application that made me stand out amongst my peers. The more things that you have like this on your application, the more likelihood that you have to stand out among the thousands of other people applying for medical school every year. So in line with the last point that I had about letters of recommendation and the pre-med advisory committee, you just want to make sure that you have strong bonds with the faculty and staff at your institution. A lot of them have great wisdom, and if you show interest in not only what your desires are as far as a future career, but also in what their career is and what they're teaching you in the classroom, then they are a lot more likely to help you along the road. I was a double major in biology and biochemistry. A typical medical student is a major in biology with a pre-med track, and they typically just stick to the biology department outside of the prerequisites to apply for medical school. With an additional degree in biochemistry, I was forced to go outside of my comfort zone and check out the chemistry department, and I truly loved it. I grew really close to the faculty members in that department as well, and I got a lot of research opportunities out of just truly immersing myself in the different classes provided to me, not just those provided by the biology department. Just make sure that with whichever course you're taking, show that you care, not just about making good grades, but that you truly care about what they have to teach you and that you genuinely want to learn. Another true gem on my application was the fact that I had attended many educational summer programs. Now, I've been attending different summer programs since middle school, but I definitely wouldn't put all of those on my medical school application. What I did include were some of the programs that I did in high school because they involved me working directly with physicians, and I also included the programs that I did during undergrad. These programs were ones that I found on the internet or through different professors at my undergrad institution, and I'll make sure to include links below for the 2 programs that I truly felt were most beneficial to my application. Those were programs run by Area Health Education Centers, or AHEC, as well as pipeline programs. Pipeline programs were created to allow students who wouldn't otherwise know about typically professions in the STEM field to have an opportunity to look at different job opportunities and check out different fields from the time that they're in middle school all the way up until they are in that field that they desire. I did pipeline programs that were geared towards the medical field, and I felt like those were truly beneficial to my application because they allowed me to do different research opportunities and work directly with physicians. If I hadn't done those pipeline programs, I never would have had the opportunity to do other than just shadow them. So look for these programs in your communities. I've provided links below to not only the AHEC website, but also to the AAMC, or the Association for American Medical Colleges. And both of those links include many opportunities across the country for ways to get involved in summer programs that not only allow you to be immersed in the medical community, but also make some money while you're doing it. Next, let's talk about volunteer hours. This is really important. It may not be essential to eventually get into medical school, but we are trying to get in on our first try. So you definitely want to make sure that you have volunteer hours. Now, a lot of colleges will have different opportunities for you, whether that be through an on-campus organization or sometimes even RAs in the dorms will have different volunteer opportunities. I know because I was an RA and I would create different volunteer opportunities that some of my residents could get involved in if they were interested. But let's say that your college doesn't do that and you specifically want volunteer hours associated with the medical field. Well, you're in luck. All you have to do is use your good old friend Google. The reason why I have volunteer hours listed as icing on the cake for me is not just because volunteer hours in general are icing on the cake, but the types of volunteerism I did in the medical community was the icing on the cake. What a lot of people will do is shadow a physician. There is a benefit in doing that to figure out what kind of doctor you want to be and to understand what it means to be a physician, whether that be from the hours or from the time commitment or the patient interaction and so on. But when it comes to volunteerism, my suggestion to you, and something that I did when I was an undergrad, was call different hospitals and ask what they needed out of a volunteer, and said that I would make myself available to do exactly whatever they needed, as long as it fit in line with my schedule with school. That led me to some very unique opportunities that did not directly involve patient interaction, but did involve patient interaction nonetheless. At one local hospital, I worked in the ER. I wasn't shadowing doctors, but instead I was shadowing nurses. That came with a lot of great opportunities to work on my skills in triaging patients and understanding what different signs and symptoms look like based off of different acute illnesses. It was also beneficial because it widened the scope of different medical practices that I got to see. I had shadowed in many different medical specialties before this volunteer opportunity, but because they specifically needed volunteers in the emergency department, I was able to see a part of medicine that I probably would not have had a chance to see otherwise. The other opportunity that I had was through a VA hospital, or a Veterans Affairs hospital. I asked what they needed volunteers to do, and they said, "We just need you to call patients and make sure that they are coming to their appointments." I know that sounds very simple and more like clerical work, but some of the best conversations I've ever had with a patient came through those phone calls with those veterans. If you think those calls were just as simple as me saying, "Hey, you have an appointment coming up," then you are wrong. They were not that simple at all. Most of the time, it took a lot of digging to find different numbers, and it took a lot of communication with the patients to figure out why they weren't making those appointments before I called, and what we could do to make sure they made their future appointments. It kind of brought a new perspective to medicine for me and how holistic medicine is. Medicine is not just seeing a patient in the office every time they have an appointment. A lot goes into them coming to those appointments, making sure they have transportation, making sure that they understand the kinds of medications that they're taking, and checking up on them periodically to make sure that they're still okay with the treatment plan at hand. I learned all of this just by calling and making sure that patients knew about their appointments. I never would have gotten that opportunity before medical school if I didn't open myself up to different unique ways of volunteering in the medical field. So don't feel bogged down by the need to work with a specific doctor or to even work at a specific hospital. You'd be surprised by how many opportunities are right underneath your nose, and all you have to do is ask in the right way. Leadership is also very important to medical schools. Medical schools want applicants that they could see as future leaders in the medical community. And the journey to becoming that leader starts right now. Are you involved in any leadership opportunities yet? If not, it's not too late. I spent that first year of undergrad, like I said, just worrying about my studies. I did attend meetings for different interest groups and clubs along the way that year, but I did not want to commit myself to just joining any club and being a member of everything on campus. I wanted to hone in on specific organizations that I felt passionate about, because I knew if I felt passionate about it, I would put my all into those organizations and I could see myself climbing the ladder to leadership positions. One organization that I found that I was truly passionate about was the Honor Court. The Honor Court at my undergrad institution was a student and advisor co-run organization that was led primarily by students, and the primary goal of this organization was to maintain the honor code system at our undergraduate institution. When I thought about joining different organizations, I thought about what will lead me to be the best kind of doctor that I can be. And patients typically want a truly honest doctor. Wouldn't you? So I put a lot of my time and energy into the Honor Court, and I worked my way up through different positions in the organization until my senior year, where I served as Chief Justice, or the president of that organization. That was another true gem of the application because I had years of consistent involvement in this organization. I was also involved in other organizations like Alpha Epsilon Delta. That's another really important organization to be involved in for anybody who's interested in being a part of the medical field. And finally, I was involved in a local organization on my college campus that was involved in global outreach. Through this club, we worked on creating sustainable fuel sources. We worked worked with organizations in Haiti to do this because Haiti at the time, and still to this day, has a lot of issues with deforestation. At my undergraduate institution, very few people were involved in this organization, so this was something else that really stood out. Don't always feel like you have to do what everyone else in your class is doing to get into medical school. Do what you are passionate about and give it your all, and that will shine through on your application. I did not have nearly as many other organizations on my resume that I was involved with, but the work that I did with each organization was so impactful that it really stood out, and most of my medical school interviews revolved around the work that I did in those organizations. So I encourage you to check out the different organizations you could get involved in on campus and start attending their meetings and find out if those are the organizations that can not only propel you to a good conversation in a medical interview, but that are impactful enough to help you become a better future physician. You don't have to be awarded for anything to get accepted into medical school, but I will say that it definitely doesn't hurt. Deciding to focus my energy on my studies that first year of undergrad really paid off and allowed me to win a lot of departmental awards at my undergraduate institution for having the highest grade in different courses. I won numerous other awards along the way, and all of this helped me out too. You always want to keep in mind that medical school application reviewers want to see growth and they want to see consistency. They don't want to see that you did nothing for 3 years of college and then that year that you were applying, you did everything and you got everything. They want to see that you provided to your undergraduate community over time. So having gotten awards not only in my 4th year of undergrad, but in every single year that I was an undergrad really paid off for me in the end. One way that you can see if there's any awards that you qualify for at your undergraduate institution is to look up the requirements on your school's website. What I would do is go on my school's website and see what awards I could qualify for by the end of that school year. And then I would make a goal for myself to meet those requirements so I could be eligible and potentially win those awards. If you make goals for yourself along your way in undergrad, it doesn't seem so overwhelming by the end. And by the time you know it, you will have a lot of accolades under your belt that will not only help your resume look good, but also be something that you feel really proud of. So when I say work, I don't mean working a full-time job while also being an undergraduate student. That is admirable, but it's not a necessity, and that's not what I did by any means. Now, I just mentioned how awards were something that were icing on the cake for me. Well, they were not only for getting into medical school, but also they helped me make connections for work opportunities while in undergrad. Because I won awards for making the highest grade in calculus and general chemistry, the department heads for the chemistry department and the math department asked me if I would be interested in tutoring in chemistry and in math. So I began tutoring in those subjects, and it became something that I fell in love with. It wasn't that much of a time commitment, maybe about 4 hours during the week. And if you combine that with the amount of time that I spent volunteering, which was also about 4 hours a week on weekdays, my total amount of work and volunteer hours throughout the week was no more than 8 hours in a 7-day week. As I said, tutoring was something that I fell in love with, and I kept up with it not only all the way through undergrad, but also all the way through medical school. If you're looking for a way to make pretty good money and also very much so impress medical school application reviewers, tutoring is the way to go. I would make sure to tutor in a subject that you feel most comfortable in, and if possible, tutoring in something that's math or science related helps show medical school application reviewers that not only are you knowledgeable enough in those fields to tutor other people in them, but that you also have a passion for potentially education. This transfers over very well for the medical field because it's all a learning and a teaching process. It looks really good if early on in your career you're already interested in education, and specifically STEM-related education. That means you may be interested in medical education, and who knows, maybe as a practicing physician, you'll work in academia and provide your medical knowledge to future physicians. Finally, we have research. Now, some would say that research is another essential for getting into medical school. I would beg to differ because I know plenty of people who got into medical school on their first try without any research experience. But I will say it is by far the biggest icing on the cake for your resume and for your medical school application. My research specifically led me to so many other opportunities, and it was really fun to do along the way. I did research opportunities here in the States at the local medical school that I was interested in attending, and I also did research abroad at the National University of Singapore. Through an incredible research opportunity I was awarded at the end of my sophomore year. I was able to present the research from those projects at different conferences across the country. There are so many research opportunities out there through major organizations that can provide you with invaluable opportunities. I provided links below for some of the different research programs I attended that you can apply for too if you're interested. I chose to do all my research during the summertime so that during the school year I could focus on volunteerism and the organizations I was involved in, but do whatever works best for you. Some people choose to do the opposite and do their volunteer work during the summer and their research during the school year. Regardless of which way you do it, just make sure that if you want to add some icing on the cake and make your application look even more unique, that you get those research opportunities in there. And that's about it. I did a lot of other things to get into medical school, but the things that I've mentioned today are truly what I believe are what set me apart from my peers and ensured that I got in on my first try. If you have any questions or general thoughts, leave them below and I'll try to reply as soon as possible. If you liked this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more about medicine, fitness, and lifestyle, then make sure to subscribe. I'll see you next time.